And we are live.
Hey everybody, good morning. This is Anne. Welcome to a Reaper Pro Tips, and I hope it's a lovely Tuesday for you all. Let's see. Poof, a wild Rax appears. Indeed. Hello, Margaret and Numbat and Iggy and Jared and Edgerjai and Jenky. When good evening. Yeah, it's still morning. Still sleepy. But yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. I slept okay, and it was actually a rainy morning, which has now completely disappeared. But I got sprinkled on when I took Kiri for her walk, which I actually like rainy days, so I'm kind of sad it didn't stick around. But it is almost summer in California, which means that rain becomes an endangered species. Hey there, Motor City Ray. How's it going? Hi, D. Clearman. It's good to see you. Jay. Rings. Good to see you. Rings today. Awesome. Awesome. Sweet. Yeah, I especially like warm rain, so I like summer rain a lot. Late spring, summer rain, early fall. Raccoons of Reaper unite. So now we need two raccoon figures, one for Rings and one for Rex. You guys should totally like tell Ed that you want to design raccoon characters. You're in Manchester. It rains all the time. Yeah, when you're in somewhere it rains all the time, it's really not a novelty anymore, is it? I do miss spring rain in Texas. Although the thunderstorms are a bit much. Kiri does not miss the thunderstorms. Hey, Robin. Alrighty. Yes, please. Hey, Real TV. How's it going? Good deal. Good deal. So I'm a little like I'm just kind of like I'm spacey today. I'm very spacey today. But we're gonna finally work with this silly wood putty. I stole it again from David last night, and we're gonna like do some bricks. Oh wow, yeah, that's a good one, Kroniko. Rain, sun, and hail. That's the trifecta, right? Fine. Hey, old timer, how's it going? I got enough sleep, just barely. I don't know. During the week, real chibi, I have to get up earlier for the stream, so it's a little bit. I can't sleep quite as late, so I still get sleep, but could have used another half hour. I mean, for everybody else, I probably get more than enough sleep. I get over 7 hours. Hey, Nomadzik, how's it going? Morning, Daffodweir. I am here, Twisted. Twisted Oma does not see the stream. Refresh. Tell Twisted Oma to refresh. I am going to go to Minicam because we can talk and we can build. Yay! Here we are. Yeah. Raccoons need to represent. Exactly. Raccoon present or something. Exactly. Good morning, Miss Imp. I take a brief drink of water here. Hydration helps you be alert and awake in the morning. Did you know that, everybody? Sometimes if you just drink a glass of water in the morning, you can feel more awake. Alrighty. Run some bloopers or something. I'm sure Justin has enough of them, Motor City Ray. Nah, I'm good. I'm just chill. I'm not like super hyper today, so just chill. So we'll see how this goes, because this is a material I have not used before. See, look, my clever base that fits together, which I'm totally not sticking together until I absolutely have to, so that I can still paint the separate parts and still work with the separate parts. But yeah, it does kind of sit together very nicely now. So what we're doing today is we're doing some bricks. I wanted to point out something too, because I actually didn't point this out previously, I realized when I was talking to somebody else about it the other day. But I've never actually used these techniques before. This is he asked if I had done if I'd ever done something on camera on stream that I'd never ever worked with before. I'm like, yeah, all this basing stuff I've been doing. I know in theory it should work, but everything I'm doing is for the first time. So this is me, guys. This is like, I have no fear of like bloopering something in front of you on my base that I'm making. But like, it's like people were like, well, how would you make a big base? And I'm like, all right, well, I may as well make a big base. I haven't done it in forever and I've never used this stuff. So let's go. Yeah, so that is something. It's a thing. I've never actually done any of this before. I just knew that it should work in theory. Oh, yeah, I missed him. Well, and I'm kind of making a point here, right? You should experiment. You absolutely should experiment. You should not be afraid of a technique or something just because you've never used it before. Just go for it. So we're going to cut off. Now, this stuff, this wood putty, I'll put it up again, it's PC lumber. It comes in the same tube that the normal, like, green stuff epoxy putty. This is also an epoxy putty. We'll see how my fingers react to it. It is supposed to be a mild skin irritant, so if I have to go wash my hands, I have to go wash my hands. But we'll try to work with it pretty fast and mostly with sculpting tools. So yeah, but I'm going to just cut off. I'm going to use my little spade sculpting tool to cut off some of this. It's supposed to cure much faster than green, so I don't want to cut off too much of it. Because once I mix it, it's apparently a very fast curing putty. There, so we'll just use a little tiny bit. Well, relatively a little tiny bit. And like I said, definitely not non-toxic. Just like with green stuff, you never want to use this stuff and then eat with your hands. You want to wash your hands thoroughly before you food yourself after you've been using epoxy putties. If you have been mixing them without gloves, which gloves being in short supply lately, in this case I am. All right. Now I did glue down the pillar because what I wanted to do... Hey Twistoma, now you're here. Yay! My pillar is actually somewhat flat on one side, which actually is nice because it's, you know, it's up against the wall here, but because of that, I wanted to take advantage of that to have a nice adhesion surface. So I decided not to sculpt my bricks prior to putting down my pillar. You could absolutely sculpt your bricks prior to putting down your pillar, if you were not doing this whole up against the wall kind of styling thing. But you know, if I tried that, then I'd have a gap, you know, I'd have weird gaps here. And you'd be able to see kind of the flatness behind the pillar and all that. So it wasn't work for me. So I decided to do this all separate, which is actually saves me a bit of work if you think about it, because I don't have to sculpt bricks where the pillar is. I just have to have bricks sticking out. What I've done is I've used a Sharpie. Let me put my glasses on here. Good morning, Otter Mama. I've used a Sharpie to kind of mark off. They're real subtle. But mark off a little. Here, let me get this up and see if I can get it in focus. There we are. So there's little notches here. And that shows me roughly where I want my mortar sections in between my bricks. And then up here, I'm going to just kind of put a little ledge and like to the top of the ruined pillar, like there's a chunk that got blasted out of it. And then up here, I'm probably going to do some sort of fresco or something. I don't know. I haven't decided. I want to do something fun and maybe freehandy up there, because I otherwise won't have a lot of crazy freehand on this model. She has room for it, but I wanted to do something up higher. So Justin is here more or less, Motor City Ray. I'm sure he took your general hello. Alrighty.
Hello, Motor City Ray. How are you doing?
I'm actually going to use this as a platform. There, that works. All right, let's mix up this scary putty that supposedly cures super fast. This putty is, and again, it's PC lumber. Let's see if I can just put it in the frame. A lot like green stuff. There we are. It comes in the same kind of tube, but it's brown and gray. This stuff's more of a brittle. Like it will definitely feel like more brittle plastic. And because of that, if you put it on something in a gigantic lump, it is much harder. So it's very sandable. It's much more sandable than green, which can be a little bit soft and rubbery still. So it is less rubbery than green stuff and harder. So keep that in mind when you're using it. David usually uses it for, I think, like base fill, and he does it. He uses it for like thin pieces of, like if he's doing a stamp of a texture, he'll press this into the stamp because he wants a thinner, harder stamp to come out of it. Like if he's doing like basing stuff, he likes this a little better than green, I think. So this is my first time using it. It is much softer. It's not as sticky, not near as sticky to green. It feels similar to Aves, but it's a lot softer, D. Clearman. Feels softer than Aves to me. Doesn't have quite as greasy of a feel. Feels a little bit more like well-kneaded Fimo with maybe just a tiny bit of stickiness. So it's going to start curing really fast now. So I am going to start putting blobs down. And I probably didn't need this much because, that's always what happens with putty is you don't need nearly as much as you think. Now, the lack of stickiness is going to mean I'm going to have to press down some stuff. Let's see. Maybe I'm just going to roll this out into kind of a snake. Sometimes when you just need a little bit, rolling it out into a snake is a good idea because then you can just snip off a little bit at a time. So we'll make it a snake, just like you did when you were a kid. And it's getting, interestingly, as I'm working it, it's getting stickier. Very interesting. It's a very interesting medium. I look forward to playing with this in the future. All right, I'm just going to put it up there on my palette. Yeah, now it's gotten very sticky on my hands. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, I'm going to use my sculpting tool. Also, the other thing, D. Clearman, is that unlike Aves, which will thin when you apply water, this does not thin when you apply water, I believe. Like Aves, you can build into a slurry like you can with Milliput. And not so much with this stuff, by my understanding. All right. Tamping it down. I'm going to kind of like see how long it takes. Like I can already feel that it's a bit firmer. Like I can see where the cure time on this is pretty fast. And for brick stuff, for at least laying out bricks, I think I would use the spade tool that I'm using. It's nice because it's got a cutting edge and it's got a flat rounded edge. So it's pretty nice for this sort of thing. Now, one thing I do want to remember too is that I need to texture this. So that's why I've kept my little tiny piece of cork around. So just like I did with these, I'm using my tiny cork texture, kind of turning it and moving it around to make a rough stone texture on this brick. And while it is really soft, like it is now, the texture will pick up very strongly. So I have to, if I want it more subtle, I'm going to have to tamp it down a little bit. I do like that I can cut this off really much easier than green because it's not as sticky. So you can see how I just sliced that off pretty neatly, all things considered. And then I can use my edge to kind of press up and get a little bit of water here because I don't want to totally lose. It is a bit soft still. There we go. Just kind of stretching it out a little bit because I lost my mortar line there. There, that's a little better. Boop, boop. All in all, though, I would say working with this is a lot easier than green. And maybe even a little bit easier than Aves because it's not going to dissolve when I add my water, my lubricant. That can be a plus with Aves. It's why I really like Aves for gap filling, because you can thin Aves down and then just kind of smush it into gaps in the model if you have subtle stuff like pitting or holes in a resin. And Aves is just superb at that. Because of that, it's the same thing with Milliput, if you prefer to use Milliput and not Aves. But this, for making forms, for making shapes, I can see how this would be good. Like, really liking it. And now I'm being a little more gentle with my texture since it is really soft still. So there is our first brick. Morning, HM Road Dog. Hi, Dogfather. So we're using a new thing today that I kind of teased last time, and then we just didn't get to it, guys. So we're using PC Lumber, which is a putty, epoxy putty. It's similar to green stuff, only less sticky, and it sets up more plasticky and brittle. I do want to get this unfinished edge here where I've got my my plastic card backing this plastic. I need to fill stuff in there. So I'm going to try to use this stuff to do it. Instead of green. Now, this may not be the best choice of thing, though, because I can see right away that this isn't going to be sticky enough, because I need I need green probably for this, because if you want something to stick, like there's a gap here, definitely, but I definitely want something to, need something that's going to stick to this plastic card in this little plastic round. And I can tell when I'm trying to press this in that it's not going to do that for me. So what I'll probably do is use green to fill the gap, and then I may come back with my brick. And do a little tiny brick back here. So let's put another blob down. Blob. You can see that it doesn't stick. It doesn't want to stick to the cork until I, it would rather stick to my fingers. Just it's very similar to green in that, right? So once you get it down, I lost Justin. Oh no, that's the problem with these earbuds.
I'm still here.
Yep. Yes, I only ripped you out of my ear. I hope it didn't hurt. So put blob down. Justin's resilient. You can rip him out of your ear and he still remains. Then gently spread it. So I may have mixed too much of this. In fact, I almost certainly did, given the fast cure time, but we'll see. So again, it's nice. You can square it off. I can still rip it out like with green, but it actually rips better. It rips rougher. It's not, you can see it's not taffy-like, right? If I tried this with a piece of green stuff, it'd pull it, and it'd make it into strings. But it's not doing that because it's more like a clay. So if you're used to modeling clay, I'd say you'd probably really like this stuff, especially if you're doing forms like architecture like this. I'm just trying to gently kind of smooth it back toward to make it a good brick behind here. And I kind of want to alternate my bricks. I don't want them to be like precisely even, but since I've kind of ruined this edge, it's kind of working with me that way anyway. I just gotta, now it's not wanting to press down and adhere to the brick, so I need, or the cork, so I need to be gentle with it to make sure it stays in place. Once it cures, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna have a problem. And I need to smush it down onto there maybe a little bit more. It does hold detail really, really well. Hey, Planer, how's it going? Yeah, I was going to say, Planer, did you see your new spoon emote? Like, Trashorama totally debuted that yesterday. I was impressed. I can't wait for the new toolbox logo. There we go. Perfect. So I'm going to rip away at this edge just a little bit. It really does work a lot like clay. And I can just rip away little tiny bits. And now I can take my little cork piece. Little cork pieces are useful because texture, easy texture, yay. And it's still pretty soft, so it's taken a little while. I'm kind of wondering, I'm actually interested to work with this with you guys today, because I'm wondering how fast it cures. Like if it stays soft for a while and then it suddenly, boops and it goes in. Or if it's going to do a gradual cure like green does. There, that's nice. That's a mortar line. That's a nice mortar line. Let me get up here where you guys can see this. There, now you can see my texture. You can see the texture on the brick there. So that's kind of nice, I think. I kind of like it. That's, and it's possible to get nice even lines here. Like I got a little uneven. Although she is in a frost giant castle, so I'm not going to worry too much if my, my stones or my bricks are a little bit jagged. So yeah, but that I think is looking pretty good, actually. I'm going to straighten this one up a little bit. Now I can see flaws on camera. Actually, Cornico, brown stuff is different usually. If you look at it and it's in a strip, like green stuff is, and it's a silver and a brown, that is a totally different kind of putty. That is not wood putty. What brown stuff is good for, unless of course it is a possibility that this was like sold as brown stuff at one point, but I don't think so. I don't think this stuff has been like real publicized in the mini painting market. But anyway, brown stuff, the old-fashioned brown stuff, which was dark brown and silver, was a putty that was good for doing hard edges. Still sticky like green, just not quite as sticky, but is really good at holding sharp edges. So a lot of sculptors used to use it for weaponry. Get in there. Get in there. This guy is not sticky at all. Now it's really... Oh, yes. So yeah, so take a look at it. If it says wood putty, then awesome. If it really was brown stuff, what used to be called brown stuff is not wood putty. If it was a while back. And it'll also be different looking, like this wood putty. You can see how light the brown is. It really is the color of wood. And then the gray is very much a gray. There. You can see that light gray. I kind of squished it when I cut it. But, so that's a bit different. If you have one that is a darker brown with a silver, that is the old brown stuff that used to be used for sculpting miniatures. And that is different. Yeah, I mean, epoxies, they can be real irritants. My fingers seem to be somewhat oblivious, but I say that knock on glass. But a lot of people do have reactions to them, so wear gloves if you have them. I do not have any gloves, sadly. And they are in short supply these days. So I'm taking my chances at this point and just going to wash my hands very thoroughly afterwards. So I'm just kind of using my spade tool here to gently pull out and flatten the brick. And I can kind of crumble the edge here where it's crumbling into the cork to make it look a little bit better. And crumble this edge too. I can actually take, at this point, since this edge right here on the cork is fairly regular, let me get my stuff in focus back at this level. Let me bring it down. Let me bring it down a bit, actually, since we're doing a close-up. Bring my camera a little bit up. Bring my camera a little bit in. There we go. Let's do this. There we are. Perfect. So since this cork edge isn't too ragged, I can give the illusion of it by gouging away at the putty a little bit instead. So it'll look a little bit more broken because I'll make that edge ragged. It's a little hard to get in with my texture stamp at this close to the pillar, but it's not impossible. My texture stamp being a piece of cork, which who knew is really good for stone texture. I need to widen this a little bit since this has a wider mortar join. But that's where the slicey edge of this comes in really handy. Then you can gently tamp it to get it as close or as sharp as you'd like. That's about perfect. All right. You don't have any gray or purple Reaper paints, JJ? Well, you should definitely get some purple Reaper paints because we have awesome purple Reaper paints. Yeah, I just don't like thick, I don't like the thick gloves planer because essentially I have no sensitivity at that point. So I'll take my chances, I guess, until I can get some thinner gloves. Because there's definitely, and it depends, like when I'm using a sculpting tool, I guess, not as important, but I still am using a lot of finger sensitivity when I'm utilizing this sculpting tool. So maybe I should use it for mixing the putty and then just go to gloves off for when I'm mostly working out with the sculpting tool. And that would be a little bit safer. Oh yeah, and some gloves set people's skin off too. Yeah, it is true. There. Excellent. Hello, Samurai Jack. How's it going? Yes, it is still morning for me. It's actually more than technically morning. It's 9:58 where I am, so it is early. Or I think. Yeah, right. I forget which, I thought I had changed all my computers, but then it turned out I hadn't. So I'm like double guessing myself on the time. All right, so my putty is still pretty flexible, which I'm impressed with because I was warned about how fast it cured. So we will continue working with the snake of putty that I have. Kind of wish I had a mold right now to stuff it into once it starts to get hard. So I might invoke, I might summon boyfriend, cast summon boyfriend level 1 and because I notice he's not on the stream. I need a smaller piece of putty for this for sure. I might have to grab the phone. The problem is that I close myself in here, so unless he's in the stream, casting Summoning Boyfriend is actually very difficult. Because I don't want to yell. Yay. Because I'd hate to waste all this putty I mixed up. I'm not sure where his molds are for texture stuff. All right. Setting up another brick, kind of squishing it gently down onto the cork so it'll stick. And pulling it out so that it gets roughly the shape I want. I can always cut it off, so pulling it over the lines that I have is just fine. Pulling and pushing. There we go, and I can kind of scrape it up with the tip of the sculpting tool too, which is handy. All in all, I think for this sort of thing, I'm really liking this particular putty. And it feels greasy on my hands, but it's not irritating them yet, so that's good. Gonna chunk off some of this. There, give us a nice rough edge. Woohoo. Have Kiri bark for him. Well, she's conked out, and she's the dangerous one. I don't want her to wake up, because when she wakes up, she usually has to go outside, so we're not going to invoke the Kiri. The Kiri this coming weekend should be able to see the ocean for the first time. So we have an active plan to go down on Saturday to Santa Cruz. I have no idea how she will react, or if she will even react. She may look at it, shrug in her Kiri-ish way, and go, I've seen more interesting things than giant bodies of water. Who knows? Using my texture stamp to put some texture on my brick. Yay. Overall, I'm quite happy with how this base is turning out so far. Oh, dog pictures and share on our pet thing on the Discord? Yeah. Well, we are planning to take pictures because let's see here. Threads of Fate. Yeah, I was thinking Kiri might, because, yeah, baths are the only time, right? But she hasn't, like, we used to wash her outside in the summer with the hose. She's a smooth coat, so she's actually really low maintenance with baths. So I'm not sure if she'll care, or she'll be curious, or she'll just try to drink it. I don't know. Oh, I think my putty is starting to set up. I'm seeing it crack a little bit instead of smoothing quite so nice. So I should have thought in advance and gotten one of David's molds. But I did not think in advance. So I will suffer and waste some putty instead. Let's see how this stuff smooths into itself. There. There. Oh, and it's starting to not want to adhere to the cork as well too. So we are, let's see, we're about a half hour in. That's what I was told, is it has about a half an hour working time, and then you have to kind of hustle. So I may need to glue this one down a little bit. This particular tile is probably not going to be quite as useful. So now I know that I really need to shave off a really thin portion of this if I'm going to do this sort of thing. If I'm not going to use it all in one big giant chunk. Yeah, it's definitely not wanting to adhere. So, okay, so this stuff does have about a half hour working time before it starts to solidify. And it's solidifying pretty fast. So I wonder what I can do with this. I wonder, see, it's cracking just a little bit, or I could maybe use it as my panel up here. Maybe I still can. Let's try it. I'm going to just try to massage it a little bit and see if I can cut out. Let's see, do I still have my arch? Yeah, I do. Let's see. Does my arch work as an inset panel? This is my little paper thing that I had originally cut out. Well, I can at least prototype it. I had originally cut out this little orange sheet of paper to cut out my plastic form. So now I can use it again as I try to make a flat thing. I wonder if I have so many tools all over the place. They're all in this, aha! Oh, I win. I totally win. Clay roller. Haha! Alright, so now I need something flat. And I'm going to grab a sticky note because it's expendable. And this is a little oily. And I'm going to try to roll this out a little bit. I want it really thin because I want to make kind of a decorative panel on the top of my archway. So let's see if it's still workable enough to roll out thin. And if I can get it off the roller. I can, actually. Correct, Francis. It is this stuff. PC lumber, wood putty. So I am experimenting with it because everything on this base has been an experiment. And I thought it would be a good putty to make bricks. And so far it has not disappointed me, but it does set up quite fast. So I'm trying to kind of hurry at this point and shape this last piece of it into something I can use. Perhaps part of my archway. So I'm trying to make it large enough for me to kind of cut it into a shape. I think I can get at least close. And then I could probably wear the edge of it. So I can cut this. And then I can cut out the arch here. And this will just let me get pretty close to the shape I want. And then ideally, even though this is no longer sticky, so I won't be able to stick it down in my cork here, if I cut out the shape while it's still wet or still uncured totally, I can glue it down later after it cures. So I can make myself a nice flat panel to maybe paint a fresco or something on, or some kind of mural artistic bit. And then I can just glue it down. Because I wanted something that was pretty thin. And I was thinking about just using plastic card. But this would be a little more organic. And I've got the putty and I don't want to waste it. But yeah, definitely use a very small, because just like with green stuff where, you know, you think you're mixing a tiny bit of green stuff and then it turns out you have way too much. This is a lot like that. Because we're working at such small scales, it's so easy to just think that you are making just a little and then you're making a ton. Now we're getting to the point where we're really cutting. There. Excellent. All right. That's good. Let's see what I got. Kind of want to bevel this edge. Kind of want to see if it's going to work, if it's going to be... Yeah, it could be a little thinner, actually. So I could cut this a little bit more. Let's see if I can get it to work. I technically could probably... Well, no, I don't think I could cut it with the scissors after the fact because it does get brittle. So... Let me see here. Now I'm using some water and some pressure with a sculpting tool to see if I can shape this still. It is setting up really fast. I may have to shave it with a hobby knife actually after this. I'm going to use this to kind of cut. I'm going to use this. I'm down to using a hobby knife now because it's hardening up a lot now. So I need to be able to press through it. It's getting quite stiff. There. 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 Yeah, see now it's peeling off. Once I score it, it's peeling off. It's really setting up. So let me just peel off some, I can shave it now, in fact, with this knife. Shave off tiny bits of it. You can see them there on that, on this thingy. Thingy is a technical term for when Anne's brain is not yet fully engaged for the day. There we go. So that's actually, it's nice that I can shave it with the knife when it's not quite fully cured. It's getting pretty flat at this point. Let's see here. How does my little panel look? It might not be long enough. Or I maybe can crumble the edge and make it a little bit inset, because then it works. Yeah, actually I'm okay with that, I think. That's going to be a big kind of... I can bevel the edge and extend another piece back here like a brick. And then I can make it look like a raised, sculpted area, which is kind of what I was aiming for. Something to make this area look more exciting and less bricky. I can still use bricks like back here, or do another panel that's broken off. I think I might do the panel that's broken off. That sounds kind of fun. But I wanted something decorative over the implied archway here. So this will let me do something decorative, which I'm pretty happy about. So now, since it's kind of set up, it's pretty stiff at this point. Let's see if I can just shave it with my knife. Oh yeah, totally shavable with my knife at this point. So a little bit more than 30 minutes in. It's definitely curing up, and it's already brittle enough that I can shave it with a knife blade, which is very useful. And of course, if I really, if I do something accidental, like I gouge out part of it, I can always come back in with some green stuff or something to doctor it up later. I'm probably gonna want to crumble this edge. So let me grab that, and let's see if I can still crumble it at this state. Bye, Planer. Thanks for my Patreon link. Ah, okay. Sweet. Yes, I do have a Patreon. I put up some Dark Elf Skin PDF earlier this month, and I'm actually going to do tattoos, I think, for my $10 level, because I've got my my Elfie bust of Elfie bust, and he totally needs a tattoo, so I'm totally giving him a chest tattoo. And I'll feature that for my Patreon for the $10 level. And I might do the Kickstarter wood triad for my color workshop this month, $5 level, because somebody mentioned they were having trouble figuring out what to do with heartwood brown and ancient bark and stuff. All right, so I can chunk it a little bit and chip it off and make it rough with my tool still at this late stage of curing. It is crumbleable. So that's nice, because now I can make it look a little more ruined, but it's still pretty resilient. I can actually leave some pretty intact parts here. So I can do some pretty subtle little cuts. This is actually nice because, like, for the pillar here, if you notice the crack that's in it, I did that after the fact when the putty was about at this point. So you can actually, I could actually carve cracks in this at this point, which I may do, because that would be a nice ruined gesture as well. So otherwise, I'm pretty happy with this archway. I think I need to maybe make the inner edge a little bit more regular and beveled. But that's very easy to do with a knife and just gentle pressure. There. That's not bad. So yeah, overall I would say, let's see here. Yeah, iBeast. Beholder is a copyrighted monster, JJ, so we cannot make anything labeled Beholder. There are monsters that were created by Dungeons and Dragons, and so they have the IP for them, and other companies cannot do unless they have a license. All right, just kind of shaving off a little bit in the back here. Kind of adjusting. Let's see here. Alrighty. Pretty good, pretty good. So I can do a couple more panels coming off of this, and I did manage to use almost all of my wood putty, which is nice. So this will work. I may do a ground layer. I don't know. I'm not sure if I like how unfinished the archway is. I think I might have to actually do some green work on it, or some more stonework. I was going to do, part of why I kept my little texture tool here is that I was going to put some height on it also, put another layer up here to kind of make it a little bit less flat and closed in on the top. Just put a little crumbly edge up top instead. So we'll see. We'll see. It doesn't look as good now that I've got my nice panel up there. That top part doesn't look as great as I wanted. So I'll have to think about that. And you just want to, as you're doing this, you know, if you're doing this step by step like I am, you can always, like, never be afraid to reconsider an idea you've had if it's not working. So, because as you progress, it's just like painting a mini. As you progress and you add colors, the appearance of those colors will change, and you may decide that it doesn't work after all. So, always be open to changing your concept. Never get married to it. And you may come up with something even better down the road. Let me get this off and out of the way here. I'm going to take my extra little wood putty scraps. I managed to use most of it, and put those in my trash. Excellent. All right. Planer is lurking. Just be aware. She told us she was, though, so that's not a very effective lurk, Planer. If you warn us that you're lurking. I guess that does keep us, like, wary and eyeballing all the dark corners, but... Alright, cool. This is working really well. Alright, so let's see. We're at 10:15. So we actually have more time. What do I want to do? Maybe, I guess I could keep working on bricks. I could just mix up a little bit more putty now that I know that it's going to set up super fast. So maybe I'll just pinch off little pieces. I'm going to get my putty roller out of the way here. So there's what it looks like in package again. And I'm just gonna, I guess pinching it off doesn't work very well because it is kind of a tube. It's meant to be cut off in slices, really. Well, I do have a lot of bricks, and my pillar ends here, so I can do them. So let me see if I can just cut with an X-Acto knife and get a little bit less than I got last time. Yeah, that works. X-Acto knife works a little better than the sculpting tool. It doesn't slice it and compress it quite as much, so you get a better idea of what it looks like. Where is not tiny cork? I believe I got this at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, the big brown stuff in the big layers with chunks. One of the hobby, but you should look up. You should be able to look up cork sheets. And I think this is 1/4 inch, so maybe it's 1/2. Where's my ruler? I can tell you in a second. It looks like this is 1 centimeter thick cork, or about, it's a little more than, it's like 5/8, I'd say. 5/8, 1 centimeter. So you could do and pet stores might have it as well. But I would just search online for like 1 centimeter or 5/8 inch cork tiles or cork sheets. Cork tiles or cork sheets should be your correct Google terms for this stuff. And hopefully you can find it. The thin cork is, of course, easily obtained because people use it for coasters, so it's a general use item. The thicker cork is often more craft or pet, as they've mentioned. All right, we have more putty. Let's see. This stuff's set up very well, yeah. All right, so now I just know that I have to work a little faster. Let's see. I think I want to do kind of a long brick here. Let's set up a nice long brick. Although I had thought maybe I would do kind of parts of ruined pillar coming off too, so... Oh, it definitely wants to stick to my fingers. Oh dear. No, putty. Stay off my fingers. But yeah, having different sizes and thickness of corks, even if you can just get corks like actually bottle stopper corks, you know, big roundish ones, you can always cut or fragment those up. The sheets are just so useful for when you're building out structures like the edge of this space, or when you're trying to build up bulky sections of rock or stone fast. That's where I find this stuff really shines, the thick stuff. So I have a bunch of it that I've hung on to over the years. So I'm just kind of like pulling this stuff out. And then I gotta slice it off so that it's even, more or less. Which also helps to smush the edge in and keep it in place. And I can kind of wreck the edge over here. Make my archway look a little bit more ruined. Now I gotta come up here, kind of smooth this out. You don't need to use nearly as much water on this because it's not as sticky, so you can just work with it with a sculpting tool a lot more than some other putties. Nice big flattish thing. I don't need them to be precisely awesome, like square perfect rectangles just because Frost Giant, but you can get close. All right. There. And do press it down a little bit so that it adheres to the cork, as it's, you know, not as sticky as green. All right, and I got a nice flat area. Let me just turn it upright. Does it look like it belongs with my other flat areas? Yes, it does. I'm just missing one brick in there. Ah! Down it goes. I forgot to trim off that back lip, though. Let me see. I'm going to actually stretch this down just a little because it didn't look quite as thick as I needed it to be. Just kind of squeeze it and pull it. This side is a little bit thicker, so it's coming up a little bit more. There, that's a little bit better. And it is nice because you can just pull it off without it sticking to everything or making strings. There. It's a little bit better. Now I'm going to actually use my texture tool, i.e. small piece of cork. Turn it, swivel it in your hand as you're using it to texture, which ensures that any memorable, specific imprints will be at different angles, and so you'll disguise that you're using one thing to texture the whole thing. You can also come in, say with the other side, and kind of over texture to break it up. Nice rough texture for our stone. See it? There. Nice and rough. And if you really want it to be a little smoother, you can take some water. Just kind of gently smooth over the top. That way it makes it look more like cut stone with slight imperfections in the surface, more like a marble. There. Grab that bit out of there and cut it up. But yeah, I like how this is turning out. I'm quite happy with it. Over time, this will make a cool base. It's gotten me. The other good side effect of putting some time, serious time into a base and creating a cool scene is it makes you more excited to paint the figure. Because then you're like, oh, I can't wait to see how she looks on this cool base when she's painted. Other things I'm thinking of adding. Originally I was thinking about adding a water effect, but I think I'm just going to add some icicles to the front of the overhang here. But now I'm wondering if I should add a light effect, like if I should add a torch or a brazier or something. I'm thinking about it. That would add some light behind her if I put it behind her on there. So I have to think about it, like what color light I want and where I want it, because it's going to affect the scene. There, that's actually pretty good, I think. And then I can come back. And remember that when you are using a texturing tool, if you use it when the putty is super soft like this, it's going to leave a lot more of an imprint than if you wait and hit it with a texturing tool when it's starting to cure. Then it's going to be a lot more subtle. There. It does, Francis. It's not nearly as sticky as green stuff. So I have to press it down onto the cork when it's fresh. If it's, I mean, but I can lift it up and it won't come off. You can see how it's kind of set in. But yeah, when I use this sculpting tool, I'm not just smoothing, I'm also pressing gently. So since it doesn't stick to the steel like it does to my finger, if I use this to press it down, it'll softly press into the cork and it'll cure. But I had to remove my brick that I was working on right here earlier because the putty had started to set up, and so it was not sticking to the cork. So it only is good for about a half an hour of working time. And then it's going to start to set up, and at that point you won't be able to kind of blend it into itself, and you won't be able to, at that point you're best off using a stamp or making a flat, something hard and flat that you need, like a panel that I wanted up here. So I'm still thinking about where to position this panel and how to shape it. I might put it more in the middle. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. Because I've got this awesome panel here, and now I can play with it. So I might actually center it. Like, I might center it above the pillar and do kind of a pillar top. Let's do that. Let's imagine that there used to be a pillar top right there. And get a kind of a thicker area. Oh, yeah, Cornico. Yep, if you can get raw cork bark, yeah, that would be great. You have a cork story? Ripped a bunch of cork off from the tree. I won't, Francis. I actually just tossed it because the other thing about the brick that didn't stick is that I was trying to blend two pieces of putty into each other, and that's how I knew it was curing, is they wouldn't blend. So it ended up just being a lumpy mess, so I just tossed it. It's just a tiny piece of putty out of everything. So let's see here. I want to imply, I might actually use, did I use all of my putty for this? No, I didn't. All right, I might need a bigger piece. I want to kind of imply that there's another rounded shape that got ripped off up here. That's kind of similar to our bottom of our pillar. So I'm looking for a shape that's kind of like this that can go up here. I don't want to stretch it too much. Just gotta need it to get off my fingers and sit there, and then I can stick it onto the cork. But my fingers are so much stickier than a steel tool. So, boop, there. Aha, aha. Come on, come on. Don't fight me, darn it. We all have these days where the putty just will not obey. It wants to stick to everything. No, bad, stay. It's like, no way. No way, I don't want you to give you what you want. There we go, much better. Stay. It's definitely fighting me. It's like, I do not want to do this. This is not my job. Let's try it again. Yeah, cork is cool. It said they wouldn't export it. Maybe we should look up Portuguese cork and see if they will just export cork chunks. I bet somebody is. Because they've got all this scrap. I'm just going to press it down. There. I should have done that at first. I shouldn't have tried to lay it down. I should have pressed it down. So now I want kind of like down here, but I want it kind of up here, and I want it broken. So first thing to do is to press this edge down so that my brick doesn't, there's a separator from my brick. And this is up here. Now I want to press down the top. Ah, it does not want to stick. Oh, I got some water on the cork. That explains it. It's wet, and so it doesn't want to stick at all. Gotta have dry. That's the problem with using water as a lubricant, is now that's going to take a while to dry. I might not be able to do my shape. Might be able to get my rough shape, but I won't be able to get exactly what I wanted. And I might be better off using some cork for that form or some plastic card. But I wanted to experiment, so maybe I can at least get the shape right if I sit here and work it next to the area I want it in. So I really just want something that thin And I probably need to smooth it down. Yeah. Probably wouldn't be, I don't know if it'd be worth it. We have enough on our plates, is the official answer. I mean, yeah, it'd be really nice if a company that makes it easy for us to get stuff carried stuff that we want, but most of the companies that we wish would do that already have a lot of stuff they're doing. Right now, I'm pretty sure Reaper does not need to look into cork export with everything else going on. I'm going to take some of this excess off. Take that excess off. Let's see here. I know roughly what I want to do. Yeah, that's nice when you can get on a plane next to somebody who shares your hobby. All right, I'm going to rip off part of this. I decided because I don't care. There we go. So this is part that's ripped anyway. And this may not work, and I may just end up tossing it. But, you know, you never know unless you try. I may decide there's a better way to do the form that I have in mind. Mostly what I'm trying to do right now, though, is just make a thicker brick for this area. And I can always then come back. If I can get just this shape to obey me, then I can always come back with green stuff to work on it and make it a little more. And I can always chunk it up, too. Like, getting the rough shape right now, I could do what we did with the column. If I can just get this rough shape, like I had a rough tube, then I can come back in and rip parts out and put cracks in it and make it uneven once it's starting to cure a little bit more. Mostly I just want a thin, uniform, brickly kind of shape at this point. And it's letting me use a big chunk of my putty, so that's good. But mostly, yeah, I want this to seem like it could be where the pillar used to be attached up top. I want to double check it, of course. See, so it's a little bit tall. I need to slice some of it off. I'm going to use a knife for that. It's not quite as aesthetically pleasing as I wanted it to be. There, that worked really well, actually, taking that off with the knife. This stuff responds very well to a knife, I would say. Ah, all right. More like a narrow band like that. Then let's grab our little architectural bit. Now we're starting to look a little bit better. I'm still a little uneven here. Actually, looking at it on the camera actually helps quite a bit because I can see where I need to adjust both this piece and maybe that piece. And this is a little too thick here at the back. So I'm going to try to slice it again. Slice. That worked really well. So yeah, so much easier than green stuff, actually. Nice, Rathmore. So I would say this putty is a lot easier to work with than green. Although it does have, because it's not as sticky, it's not going to stick to the surface as you want it to necessarily stick to as well. So, like, I'll have to glue this one down for sure as it gets... I'm going to let it cure, I think, because I want to be able to chunk out the ends really roughly without squeezing them down. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take some water and I'm going to smooth the top of this thing just to make it a little flatter. And that's also going to make it a little wider in places so I can trim it up. Just pretty much grab some water and go very fast and gently over the top of the surface of the putty. Take that little hair off. And then you can just pretty much burnish it really flat. And you can see it's distorted it now. Hey there, Wavy. Cool. So yeah, so buying cork. Do that, guys. Thanks, Twistedoma, for checking that out. I figured there's got to be places to buy big chunks of cork, right? If it exists and you encountered it in Portugal, then there's... Now I want to go out and order some because it just sounds like it'd be so much fun for basing if you got some nice, big, interesting chunks. There, I'm just lightly shaving off bits now to adjust my shape. It's very responsive to this at this point. It's been about 20 minutes, so I maybe have another 5 to 10 of working time as far as just being able to do subtle things to this this putty. I think I need to smooth out this end a little bit more. That's starting to look nice. Let's see here. May need to, I need to probably trim the bottom of this to make it more in line. But that's starting to, I mean, I'm really trying to make interesting architectural shapes up here, right? So that it's not just boring. This may need to go a little bit higher. So I may need to actually put a little segment in there. Which I actually have basswood, really thin basswood that probably would work really good for that. So maybe I'll work with that, basswood here, basswood up here, to work with all that. And this is a nice wider thing right now. I'm pretty happy with this shape. I'm going to chunk it up a little bit and make it ruined once I have it a little bit more solid. So yeah, overall, pretty happy with how this is coming out. We made a lot of progress and we got a lot of bricks done on there, and I learned a lot about working with this putty. I've got to say I'll work with this putty a lot more from now on, now that I have a feel for its capabilities. What's it good at? What's it not good at? You know, how fast does it really cure? You know, how much do I really want to slice off at a time? It's useful if you're working with a new product and you haven't done it before. It's useful to just like, don't just sit and read reviews. Just get out a chunk and try to do something with it, and you'll learn very quickly what it is good for and not good for compared to the other stuff you have used. And that's how you get interesting ideas, right? Is you're not just following what somebody else has done with a product, but like David uses it mostly for stamps. But I'm like, well, I bet I could sculpt bricks with this when he suggested it, and sure enough, it really holds texture very, very well. Like, I almost want to use it now to finish out these tiles because it's easier and faster. The only downside would be it won't stick to them as well as the green stuff did down here. So I may be stuck finishing this area out with green, just because I think with this plastic card, it'd be harder to get this cork to stick unless I put down some texture first, like I had with the grouting that I did in between the tiles. If I put a layer of that over the top, then I might be able to just put the wood putty down and have it adhere pretty well. But yeah, so all these like experiment kind of things, right? So I do need to even up the lower edge of my brick here. So, and now it should be set enough that I can just, the nice thing about this too is you can slice off such a nice thin, reacts really well to the knife. Like, really can take a really tiny thin area off without it being sticky. Just so nice to work with. All right. Oh yeah, thumbtack boards. That's another thing you can get thicker pieces of cork for. Trash is right. Hi, Ultra Squid. How's it going? So yeah, there's a lot of different web places to get different kinds of cork. At Michael's, you can almost always get this thin stuff, which I think is like 3/8 of an inch. Not sure. Could be like a third of it. I don't know. Thin stuff is thin cork, and it is. Yeah, it's like 3/8. Or yeah. So 3/8 cork versus, I think, 5/8 cork or 1 centimeter cork. This is 4 millimeter cork. So the thin stuff you'll find all over in craft stores because it's good for coaster making. and used often for that. So you can find big sheets of it. Honestly, one pack will last you forever. And then the thicker cork, you may want to look at reptile shops or type cork sheets or type buying cork. You get all sorts of cool places to get cork in various chunks and thicknesses, I'm sure. It's very useful. One thing I do want to say is it is crumbly. So what I do, and haven't done it down here yet, but I am going to, is I take a thinned layer of, say, Elmer's glue all or wood glue, and I will paint it over the entire surface. And that will essentially, once it sets, it'll give the cork a nice durable outer surface. It'll be a lot more resistant to crumbling of all sorts. So it's a good sealer for the cork. And I would probably do that even like up here. Once I've got this all set, I would probably paint a thinned layer of PVA glue around the outside as well. And maybe even over my bricks, just because why not? It's going to dry super thin and matte, and it's a good sealer. So I probably will do that. I like to do it on terrain boards in general. So yeah, that's our progress for the day. We've gotten a lot kind of starting to come together on our base here. I'm still not quite sure where I want to go up here at the top. But I'm thinking about it. I could do some little decorative bits and edges, like there was stone inlay up here, which I think could be kind of fun. Just something a little bit that isn't just barbaric, right? Because obviously, she's a frost giant, so I mean, it's not like they have a lot of artistry, but her staff is really intricate. So that they do some artistic and fine work, So from that and from her jewelry, I'm going to infer that they're capable of doing, nicer architecture. Or at least stealing nicer architecture from other people. But as this is a giant-sized doorway, I'm pretty sure that her family built it. So yeah, this, I want to get a little fancier here. Like ruined finery is what I'm kind of going for, because I really want the title of this piece to be Brooding on Vengeance, and I want to give her a reason that some silly party of adventurers has come into her home and wrecked it and killed her family and stuff, and so now she just wants vengeance on the townspeople that the adventurers came from. All those consequences that you usually don't see in adventuring parties and campaigns. Oh, the white stuff? This plastic card. Yep. Another sheet styrene. Hold on, let me grab a package of it, and I will show you. Usually I get it from Evergreen. Sheet styrene. Evergreen. This is sidewalk, so it's actually scored in little, you can't really see, but it's scored in little, yeah, you can. Scored in little squares. This is very useful if you're just trying to make a square or a rectangle shape. You can just score it along the lines with a hobby knife. I usually order this. This is 0.40 millimeters thick, but I order various thicknesses. This one is very thick. You can see on end that it is quite thick, and the reason for that is I wanted this to be strong. This to be a fairly strong backing, so that once I put everything on it, it would hold up and not break easily. So yeah, and then this is thinner. You can see, actually, there's your comparison. So here I'm using two thin sheets, probably of that 0.40 millimeters. Or no, it would have to be more. But then there's this big one here, which is the backing. So these are about half of the thickness of this. And this was because I'm layering on. I wanted a base layer, and I didn't need it to be strong because it's being glued onto this wood block. I just needed it to be smooth. And then allow me to glue down my tiles, which I just actually cut out separately in squares, and then I used a knife to slice and make the edges very irregular and to cut them into smaller pieces, to break some tiles. Things like that. And then, so I'm using different thicknesses of sheet styrene for different uses, essentially. But it's a great way if you want the rigidity of plastic and you want to, you want that smoothness to start from and then maybe put some texturing on like I have. It's very easy to cut. It's very easy to shape. So it lets you do your own custom plastic stuff on a level. You can also build up 3D shapes with it. Bob Rodolphe, by the way, is an expert at using styrene. The things that man has made, a lot of the Bones terrain pieces, the smaller ones, were made of styrene or mocked up in styrene. Trashorama, I have not decided on the back of the arch. I mean, a lot of times the tradition for this sort of thing is to just paint it black, right? So I'm not certain what I want to do with the back. since this is a lot of work, and you guys have seen that I put several hours into the base already, just on stream, not even counting off stream. It'll depend on how I feel when I have everything else worked out, and I really, am to the point where I like it. It's really actually here. Let me raise up camera so you guys get the total effect here. Let me get camera up here, and so that we can see everything. I love this camera because I can just adjust the arms so easily, and then we can move the arch down here, and we can set our little piece in. Boop. And then we can put our frost giant in the appropriate place, So she goes right here. So we'll have a nice overhang. Originally I was going to do this, but then when I put the wall on, it didn't look nearly as good. So now we've got it here, and usually I've got her sticky down there, but right now I don't. But yeah, so she goes here. So you can see the archway behind her. You can see a bit of the column. You can see if there's intricacy back there. She's still the point of the piece, and it's important to do that when you're building a scenic base. Constantly be putting your model on it to check that no matter how interesting you're making her environment, your model is still the most important thing in the picture. A base should always accentuate the model, right? It should give it a cool setting to be in, but it shouldn't distract you so much that you don't care about the model. So it's that kind of thinking for composition, for composing a base. So behind her, I want these cool shapes that are different. I don't just want stonework. That's why we've got a column, and we've got our little bit up here. And maybe I'll make some more intricate stuff up there too. But it still has to be where she's the focal point. So everything else has to just give her an ambient, it just has to imply her story, to give you interesting textures to surround her with. That's still not overwhelming it. So the bigger the base, the more work you have to do to give detail to it, because you don't want boring blank spaces, or it's like, what's the point? The mistake that I see commonly with people doing dioramas or big bases is that they'll have a big flat base, and they won't have anything interesting in large areas of the base. Like, it'll just be open ground. And it's like, even if you're just putting interesting, like, mounded grass or little piles of rocks with some bones, or, a fallen tombstone, or whatever your ambient asks for. Also, we can just look at her placement up here. So she's going to be placed right here. Always make sure your model fits well on your base also. So like so. So I do have a little room back here for something, but it's also a crumbling edge, so I may just not be able to do much there. I don't know. Something in me wants to do a little bit of something. I was going to do kind of a teddy bear leaning against the archway here as well, that had been mangled a little bit, just to give more story to her. So I may do that and just crumble this edge. We shall see. I may want to do like more mounded stone over here, just to give it. Depends on how, like... Originally, I thought perhaps I would put part of the ruined column over here. But in this case, I might ruin the archway and drop part of that instead. I mean, I could still build up some stuff here, like rocks have fallen through this doorway, and is really that there's a pile of rubble over here. I mean, whatever adds to the story and makes it interesting. And you also don't want to... You never want to just look at it from one angle. Always look at your piece from multiple. Look at it from on top, and then look at it from the side. You always want it to be interesting. You always want it to be interesting. The exception is the back, which, in a lot of traditional ways, a lot of things traditionally would just paint this black. But in this case, I could get away with texturing it or doing something interesting back here because we can see her through it, because it's still a frame for her from the back. So if I painted it just black, it wouldn't really come off very well, because we've still got this giantess here, and I'm planning to do some freehand on her back cloth. So because I can see her clearly, and because this is clearly a frame for her, I probably do want to do something back here, and then probably just paint it like it's in deep shadow. That would be the way to go. Either that or paint it like normal, but maybe put a lamp or a torch up here so that I can get a little bit of light back here too if I'm going to put some details. I don't know. This is a blank slate, guys. I could do anything with this. This base may go crazy. I may do a very, very, high quality job on it. I'm not sure. It's exciting in its potential. But then we'll turn her this way. Want to make sure that, again, she is interesting from all angles. And yeah, she is interesting from this angle. So I may do some more detail of crumbled stuff down here. I haven't yet decided. I really do need to put something under here. But yeah, there's a lot more that I need to do to really build this out to the base that I envision it to be. Although now it's exciting because it's getting to the point where it's close, right? I can start to see the base that I originally envisioned coming through. So that's very exciting. Hello, Have No Mouth. I'm a little sad that you have no mouth and must stream. I guess you could mime a stream and that would work. But yeah, I was just showing people, we were just wrapping it up. I've been working on my base for my Frost Giant Queen all today, because just Terrain Tuesday, as Reaper used to call it. So I was showing people how you should look at your base from different angles to make sure it's interesting from different angles. But yeah, so this is what I've been working on today. And every Tuesday for the last few Tuesdays, hasn't it been, guys? But this was interesting and fun, and I'm glad that I tried out this putty. I think that's about it for today, Justin. Do you have a raid?
Yeah, I'm actually looking for one right now. I was in the middle of helping Rhonda for this afternoon's show.
Yeah.
She claims to be kind of not super tech savvy, but she takes instruction fantastically well.
Yes.
So for someone who's not tech savvy, she sure does manage to work her way around technology very easily.
Well, that makes sense to me, since she's so good at writing instructions for the Learn to Paint kits. That
I also
she
think
would
she's
also
being modest.
She's more tech savvy than she knows. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she sells herself short in that regard for sure.
Yes, exactly. So if you're if this is your first time on the stream, Have No Mouth, I'm Anne. I work for Reaper Miniatures. I actually was working on site for them, making their paint lines for like 15 years. I worked for Reaper for 17, and then I moved to California a month ago to be with my guy, and now I stream remotely for Reaper. So welcome to the stream. Normally we're doing painting tips and stuff, but on Tuesdays I typically work on my big base, because that was one of the questions that I was getting from people is, if you want to do a big elaborate base for a model, how would you go about it? So I am kind of step-by-stepping people through this process so they can see how I'm actually constructing the space for this giant.
All right, I got a raid for us. We're going to be raiding Mocha. Make sure everyone...
Yeah, everyone say hi to... Yeah, hold on. We got to tell them that Michael Proctor show is at 3 p.m. today. Or 4 p.m.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, okay, yeah, because there's like, Francis just asked, what show will that be? It will be Crow's Nest with Michael Proctor today. And is it 4 p.m. Central, Justin?
4 p.m. Central.
4 p.m. Central time. All right. So definitely show up and talk to Rhonda and make her feel welcome. And then, yes, since we are rating Mocha, and she is, of course, an awesome, like, Reaperite also, we must give Mocha lots of Reaper love. Okay, you guys?
Please do. Oh, and don't forget to use the new Reaper raid emoji.
Oh, yeah. Use the Reaper raid emoji. Good job. Thanks for that remind, Justin. All right, guys. Have a great day. I will see you again tomorrow. We're going to do some Succubus Kiss on our Dark Elf, remember. We're going to work with that color and see what it's good at and see how you highlight it and shade it. All right?
Ooh, I like it.
All right,
guys.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming out, and thank you for the new people that I saw in chat today.
Yeah. Hi, new people.
I didn't engage too much, but I was working on ReaperCon stuff and other show stuff.
Yeah, Disembodied Voices,
thank you guys very much. Luckily, they don't really need me. You're providing so much content. I'm not super relevant.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. And I will see you this afternoon.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Be there or be square.
Bye.
Right, Ann?
Bye.
See you guys.